I'm Stacy Keeley. I live here in southeast Pennsylvania on our homestead, and I also help to run the local Berks County chapter, Weston A. Price, where we focus on whole foods, pasture-raised meats, raw dairy, and definitely eating local.
What does eating local mean to you?
Eating local, it means either in your own backyard or your neighbor's farm. Definitely here in Pennsylvania, that's really easy to do. We live near Lancaster County, so we have a plethora of farmers markets and farms. And also, if you raise any of your own food, definitely sourcing food for your pets or your animals at foods that were raised locally. Supporting businesses that also support local farms. It just helps the whole local economy, which helps you.
And what does a homestead actually mean, Stacy?
Well, we have 20 acres, but a homestead definitely can be a whole lot smaller. That could be a balcony. We've seen a lot of tiny little homesteads, but a homestead basically just means that you're attempting to raise some of your own food or provide yourself with some of your own sustainable materials, whether it's maybe collecting firewood to heat your home, raising a little bit of food, raising some herbs, maybe some animals. Definitely working with what's around you.
And if someone were to want to start their own homestead or even their own balcony garden, what are some of the best herbs and vegetables that you would suggest they start with?
Oh, definitely anything that's climbing. Like there is a zucchini rampicante. I think it's also called like a trumbles. It's a zucchini that's climber. It doubles. It is mild tasting. It's great as a summer squash, but also as a winter squash. So you get that hard outer shell on it. So it goes that whole season, and it's multi-purpose. And you can't forget the Matt's Wild Cherries or the Sun Gold. Just a huge amount of produce off of
Everybody loves those cherry tomatoes. They're so good.
Yeah, and loads of herbs, any kind of herbs, because herbs are expensive and they're better. The fresher, the better. So. Definitely.
Can you explain a little difference between maybe some of the better culinary herbs versus some of the medicinal herbs?
Well, a lot of the culinary herbs, they're lovely as medicinal herbs as well. So we do rosemary behind me. There's a Mediterranean bed that I had to modify with lots of sand and rocks. We don't grow lavender real well here, but lavender is great as a culinary herb and as medicinal. Oregano, thyme, rosemary, they double. I like anything that does double duty or triple duty. Yeah.
Part of that sustainability, right?
Yep.
What do you suggest as far as getting some of the rest of the family members involved?
Oh, absolutely. My youngest son, who's 7, he is a fabulous little gardener. We use it as part of our school. We use it as far as our math and nature study. He loves learning how to grow food. I think it's really good for kids to know where their food comes from, how it grows, and the successes and failures. To know that just because you have a failure of one crop, you look around and you usually have a success of another crop depending on the year. Yeah.
I think do you think that even though people are experienced, if you have a different location, it completely changes things?
Absolutely changes everything. I've been gardening my whole life. And I thought I had it nailed, and then I moved, and after 16 years of growing in raised beds, that was very rocky soil. It had been a riverbed before. I moved here and thought I could, conquer this very large garden that we had. It's about 90 by 90, and little did I know that my microclimate was definitely gonna give me a run for my money. We're on the north side, which is not the easiest to garden, and we had a lot of failures, and then after we learned and embraced where we were and how we could garden here, now we have more successes than failures.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the preparedness issues, maybe some of the preparation methods and things like canning and preserving, things like that?
Well, being prepared is definitely simplifying your diet is number one, because it makes it a whole lot easier. And we do stock up on a lot of things that we can use for both our diet and for our animals. Canning, we do a lot of canning because you don't want anything to go to waste in a season. And if you have a bumper crop of zucchini, You definitely start turning it into things like, you know, zucchini bread that you can freeze, zucchini relish, zucchini pickles, spicy zucchini, anything, you know, like cabbages turn into sauerkraut and coleslaw, and we learn a lot from a lot of other people. So we definitely watch our YouTube channels. A lot of off-grid folks who live in like Alaska and other places where it is a matter of survival. So it might not necessarily be a matter of survival for us because we live close enough, you know, to a lot of farms and then our own place. But it's definitely good to know. It's good to know those things, how to can simply. And I have to say, out of all the recipes that we've made, sometimes the simplest of the recipes are the best. Don't get fancy. Just keep it simple.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about a few more zero waste swaps that people might be able to make?
Oh yeah. Well, first you have to say that you refuse. Now, I find it very easy to be a nonconformist, so it's probably a lot easier for me. But I think starting to say, "Hey, I don't need this," you know, and this is gonna sound a little funny, but saying, "I don't need deodorant," or "I don't need all those hair products," or "I don't need the fancy this or that." I definitely gave up, obviously, makeup. You know, we do use different. We use tooth powder. We also use bites, which are very simple. They're in a glass bottle for our toothpaste. We use the bamboo toothbrushes just because they're easy to compost. There's a lot of things we don't use. We don't have a lot of fancy face products, or, you know, my stuff fits in my two hands. You know, it's very simple. We make bar soap. We use a lot of bar soap because we make it, and there's, you know, minimal packaging. A lot of refillable things too. So when it comes to like our dishes, we have to be biodegradable. We have a cesspool and we have a gray water system. So everything has to be able to be broken down and not affect the environment negatively. So we use, you know, the cleanest products we can. Compost. That's another one. Do a lot of compost. So I'm looking into the bukashi because that, you know, we're not vegan or vegetarian, but we want to be able to be as sustainable as possible. So that's a way that you can break down dairy and meats as well.
So to you, being green doesn't mean just growing your own food. There's a lot of other aspects to it.
There is a lot of other aspects, and you know, we're definitely not perfect, and it's a journey. And the more you know, the better you do with everything in life. So you know, lessening our waste. You know, whenever we can. We don't have garbage pickup here. My husband takes it, you know, once a month. So we have to try to keep it to a minimum. Even the recycling, you know, if I can get away with buying something in bulk that I know I use all year long, you know, if I can buy a 5-gallon bucket of it and then reuse the bucket, you know, around the farm for various things, for animals, for the garden, or I can buy something, you know, in a 25, 50-pound bag that's paper that I can use to lay down before I put down mulch or soil for gardening, and it's just an easy way to cut down on that packaging instead of going and buying a small package. And I know not everybody can financially do that, but again, if you simplify your diet and you do things on rotation, you know, throughout the year, it's possible that you know, you can buy that 25-pound bag of oats or, you know, different things. So, yeah.
Great. Can you talk about a little bit of some of the do-it-yourself products that you make here on the homestead?
Yes, we use a lot of the herbs and a lot of the flowers, and a lot of things that people don't even know are here that we forage for. Some people would think my garden is a little weedy, but we do use like all the violets that you see that are behind you there.
I see them. They're beautiful.
We use the violets, we use the nettles. There's just a lot of foraging, and then also a lot of the plants that we grow. I harvest the flowers and the herbs, and soon to come, that crazy spot over there will hopefully be a greenhouse where then we'll have an enlarged area where I can dry all of the herbs and do all that. So teas, we do salves, we do lotion. I don't have my business going right now. But I do have friends that come and help in the garden, and then I exchange
Bartering.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, we exchange things, and then I teach them how to do it too. So, to me, you can feed someone, but if you can teach them how to grow it, or teach them like a fisherman, teach them how to fish,
Absolutely.
then they'll be a fisherman for life. So the same thing with herbs. I just had ladies over a month ago. We only had like 3. I had to cut my class in half, but we came out here and we were walking around, and it's easier for me to teach them, and then they go home and they make their own products. To me, which is more sustainable, and they help now. They bring all their own glass jars to fill, and so the class is a little bit different. Instead of me buying in goods that I'm ordering from, say, Amazon or somewhere else, I have them bringing jars that they can recycle, or that they've had at other classes with me. They wash them out and bring them out, and we fill them with new salve or their first aid kits and that kind of thing. So
it's probably really empowering for people that come and realize they can make these things for themselves.
It is, and it's fun when we walk around and they look at something that they thought was a weed, and then they turn it into a product, and they're like, I can do that all by myself now.
Kind of changes perspectives for people, right?
It does, yeah.
Could you give us a quick tour of the garden?
Sure. So this side of the garden is our perennials, and then along the back of the hedgerow are some berries, some bush cherries and hazelnuts. And I do have some flowers because I believe in feeding the soul as well. But I do have some blueberries, there's some mint and some cranberries, raspberries, blackberries, boysenberries. There's currants and gooseberries, and then loads of strawberries. And all these little guys are more bush cherries.
I guess the fence helps with critters.
It does. It helps a lot with the critters. And then the hedgerow does as well, because deer don't like to jump where they can't see. Mm-hmm. So, and we love to do polyculture. So we look at what grows well together, not only their root system and what they need in a soil, but then also the beneficial. So whether it brings in pollinators, or whether it accumulates nutrients. So we have chamomile and alpine cherries in here, or alpine strawberries, with the gooseberries and the currants.
There's those strawberries.
And then on this side there's walking onions that we just put in, garlic, rhubarb, and the horseradish. Oh. And there is some more strawberries in here too. And in this bed we have strawberries and asparagus. You can see the asparagus coming up.
Nice.
This is where our turkeys will live soon.
Oh, there's one. I was trying to, where are they? And they take a couple years, right, to establish?
Yes, we had a bed here that was old from when the house, but it slowly started diminishing. So we had decided that we were going to start a whole new bed. It takes some patience because you have to wait a couple of years. So I've harvested one so far. So I probably won't harvest too much this year, and then next year we should have a good flush.
One of those patience crops.
It is one of those patience crops. I have a lot of those because we have crops in different places. Not because we're trying to be secretive at all, but just because they're crops that could take over a little bit. So if we have them in an area where my husband can mow around them, it contains them. Yet we know they're still there because we have sunchokes along the driveway coming up. I do have, it's called hopness or American groundnut in the bed over here. And then this will be tomatoes. This is the only bed that's not finished and planted yet. So they're not coming up yet, but all along here they look like potatoes. And they're this unusual tuber that you can eat the tuber and then it'll make a vine over this. It's also called cinnamon vine. And you can also eat the flowers. So we like things that, like I said, multi-purpose. It'll also give a little bit of shade, afternoon shade too. That's why I have the shade cloth on there. So the turkeys will be in there. We did have our chickens over here, and then we swapped them out. And then we do raise broilers, and that's what that crazy contraption is up there. We take them around the garden. So they're getting fresh grass.
Rotate, yeah. That's awesome.
So I do have some cold crops in here right now, but this will get perennial greens in it. So it does have one of the bloody dock right here. It'll get more of that, and it'll get a lot more perennial greens. A lot of people don't realize that things like Swiss chard You don't have to rip them out.
Was the kale in there?
There is kohlrabi, aslata radish, which is a really good roasted radish.
Ooh.
To me, it almost has like a mushroom taste to it.
Mm.
And then mizuna.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's like a salad green, right? Or no?
Mizuna, yeah, it's like a mustard green.
Yeah.
You can use it like in salads or in stir fry.
Gotcha.
So, again, that multi-purpose.
Yeah, many ways.
Then on this side, we did have forsythia here, and although you can eat forsythia flowers, it's not really giving you
Not much.
Not much. So we put in Saskatoon berries, and then also as like pest prevention, we put in the garlic chives, because they help with all sorts of things. And then there's also oregano and thyme in there. And then this is another bush cherry. We also have medicinal herb beds, because I am a master herbalist, so of course couldn't live without my herbs. So I do have, this is the sunny herbs, and then over there is more of the shady herbs. So we have things like yarrow and bee balm, elecampane. I have white yarrow started, some feverfew, some anise hyssop, and then there was more herbs up there as well. And then on the shady side over there.
Do you make an effort to keep things native?
I do a little bit. There are some things, like the Saskatoon berries are definitely native. They actually grow almost all over the United States. So it is something, and it grows, it has a nice range of climates that it grows in. So it's a really nice one, it's like a blueberry. So some things I do, and then some things I make sure that I pay attention to where it's growing so it doesn't get away from me. But I do have boneset, which is actually native here. There's marshmallow. There is skullcap that's just starting to come up. There's some wood betony, some meadowsweet, some motherwort, and I'm not quite sure if that is my ginseng.
It's too early to tell.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I threw in there that I'm not quite sure if they'll make it, if it's enough sun here. And then sometimes these beds, I will put other perennial plants in here as like a nursery bed, just to let them get a little bit bigger to put them out, because I don't have money to go to a nursery and buy, you know, $15-20 pots. I grow a lot of stuff from seed, or I get them from my friends for free. We swap things. Again, to me that's more sustainable to say, hey, do you have anything that you want to get rid of? So all of these hostas are from my best friend and from my mother-in-law.
Talk to your other gardener friends. They can help you out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and oftentimes once they get going, you know, there's a lot of wonderful things that you can share, you know. And when someone says invasive, though, all I hear is free plants. So, and because we live on the property that we do, there is a lot of invasives here. So I normally never recommend that someone buys 20 acres because there's a lot of land management, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. So it's definitely something that we try to keep in check. We usually go around the property and, you know, cut down, our DCNR guy cut 3 feet off of, you know, some of the vines and different things so they die back in the trees and don't pull the trees down. And then, of course, learning how to take care of tree of heaven and some of the invasives that, you know, we have to manage. We'll never get them all, but if we can manage them, that they're less destructive. Yeah, it's part of the process.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all of your time today, Stacy, and for showing us your beautiful property.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it, and hopefully people will have some interest. Is there somewhere people can find you if they have additional questions?
Field and Forest Herbals on Instagram.
Great. Thanks so much for your time, Stacy.
You're welcome.